The sun was rising over the dusty plains, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. The small town nearby was just beginning to wake, the distant sound of horses' hooves mixing with the chatter of early risers. In the middle of this quiet chaos stood Thomas, a young man in his 20s who had just returned from a long journey. He was not rich nor particularly powerful, but he had earned a reputation as someone brave and fair in the eyes of the people who knew him. Today, however, his courage would be tested in a way he had never expected. Thomas had been summoned to the commander's tent, a place he had visited many times before but never under such unusual circumstances. As he entered, he noticed the commander's stern face soften slightly, though the tension in the air remained. "Thomas," the commander said, his voice firm but calm, "for your bravery and loyalty you are to receive a reward." Thomas bowed slightly, unsure what form this reward would take. He had been involved in scouting missions, helping to secure the town from raiders and assisting in the protection of the surrounding settlements. He never expected to be given anything beyond words of gratitude. The commander motioned toward the corner of the tent, and there, shyly standing with wide eyes, were two young girls. They were identical twins, not more than 12 or 13, their hair dark and braided, their expressions a mixture of fear and confusion. "They are Apache sisters," the commander explained. "As part of a captured group, they have been given to you as your reward." Thomas felt a sudden tightening in his chest. He had heard stories of captives being given as rewards before, but seeing it in person made the reality hit hard. These were not just names on a list or people in the distance, they were children. He looked into their eyes, and for a moment there was silence. The twins' gaze was filled with mistrust but also curiosity. They had been through so much already, and now they were in a world that seemed strange and frightening to them. I don't understand," Thomas said softly, trying to keep his voice steady. They are just children. Are you sure this is right?" The commander's face did not change. "This is how things are done. They are yours to care for, Thomas. Treat them well, and they will be a part of your household. Fail to protect them, and it will be seen as your fault." Thomas swallowed hard, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He stepped closer to the girls, who instinctively took a small step back, clutching each other's hands. He knelt to be at their level, offering a gentle smile. "I won't hurt you," he said quietly. "I promise. My job is to keep you safe." The twins did not respond at first. They had been taught to fear strangers, especially those who claimed authority over them. But there was something in Thomas's eyes, a calm, steady kindness that made them hesitate. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, they relaxed their grip on each other's hands. Days passed, and Thomas realized that caring for the twins was not just a duty, but a lesson in patience and understanding. He gave them food, clothing, and a safe place to sleep, but he also respected their space. He understood that trust could not be forced. The twins, whose names were Ayana and Nayeli, were quiet at first, only speaking when necessary. They observed everything, their sharp eyes noticing even the smallest gestures of kindness. Thomas learned quickly that simple acts could build bonds. He would leave small gifts for them, extra bread, a small wooden carving, or a colorful ribbon. These little things made the girls smile, though sometimes only briefly, like a flicker of sunlight through the clouds. Gradually, they began to share their thoughts, telling Thomas about their home, their family, and the life they had lost. Though their words were few, each story left a deep impression on him. He could not imagine the fear and sadness they had endured. One afternoon, Thomas took the twins to the river nearby. The sound of water rushing over stones was soothing, and the sunlight danced on the surface in sparkling patterns. He showed them how to skip stones, laughing softly as they tried and failed several times. For a brief moment, the fear in their eyes disappeared, replaced by laughter and concentration. Thomas realized that even in difficult circumstances, moments of joy were possible. At night, Thomas would sit by the fire while the twins slept nearby. He often thought about the world outside, about the expectations placed on him, and about the life the girls had been forced to leave behind. He made a silent promise to himself. No matter what, he would protect them, not because he was ordered to, but because it was the right thing to do. They were no longer just captives or rewards. They were like family to him. However, protecting them was not without challenges. Other people in the town whispered and watched, some expecting Thomas to treat the girls harshly or demand obedience. He ignored the whispers, focusing instead on building trust and ensuring the girls felt safe. It was a delicate balance, showing kindness while maintaining authority, and Thomas often found himself learning as he went along. As weeks turned into months, the twins began to trust Thomas more. They spoke freely, laughed more often, and even started to play with other children in the town under his watchful eye. Thomas noticed subtle changes in them. The way they stood taller, smiled more easily, and spoke with confidence. The transformation was slow but heartwarming. One evening, as Thomas and the girls walked back from the river, a group of travelers passed by. They looked curiously at the twins, whispering among themselves. Ayana and Nayeli held Thomas's hands tightly, their small fingers curling around his with trust and comfort. In that moment, Thomas realized that protection was not just about guarding them from physical harm. It was about providing emotional safety, stability, and love. Thomas's days were filled with small victories, teaching the girls simple skills, helping them feel accepted and witnessing their growth. But he also faced moments of doubt and fear. Would the outside world respect their bond? Could he truly keep them safe in a world that often seemed cruel? These questions lingered, but Thomas never let them show fear in front of the twins. His calm presence became their anchor. Through it all, the bond between Thomas and the twins grew stronger. They began to call him brother in their own language, a word that carried weight and meaning beyond simple affection. Thomas smiled each time he heard it, knowing that trust had been earned and love had been given freely. It was a reward far greater than any material gift or recognition from the commander. By the time the seasons changed, Thomas, Ayana, and Nayeli had settled into a routine. Life was not easy and the past could never be erased, but together they found strength. Each day, Thomas reminded himself that protecting them meant more than keeping them from harm. It meant standing by them, supporting them and treating them as equals, and so, the young man who had received an unexpected reward discovered a truth far deeper than he could have imagined. Courage was not just about facing enemies or completing missions. It was about choosing compassion when it was hardest, offering protection when it was uncertain, and building family where none had been expected. The twins, once strangers and captives, became the heart of his life, and he vowed silently that nothing would ever break the bond they had formed. The story of that first year would be remembered not for the hardships or the fear, but for the trust that grew slowly, the laughter that returned to two frightened girls, and the strength of a young man who chose to act with humanity when the world expected otherwise. Even in the harshest circumstances, love, patience, and courage could create a family, and Thomas understood this more clearly than ever before. Life continued in the small town, and Thomas's bond with Ayana and Nayeli grew stronger with each passing day. The twins had settled into a routine, yet the world around them remained unpredictable. Though the town seemed peaceful, there were always whispers of danger, travelers passing through, rumors of raiders nearby, and people who didn't understand Thomas's unusual household. But he never let fear stop him. His focus was clear, the twins' safety and happiness. One morning, Thomas noticed the girls lingering near the edge of town, staring toward the horizon. He approached them quietly, his shadow falling over their small forms. "What are you looking at?" he asked gently. Ayana spoke first, her voice barely above a whisper. "I miss our home," she admitted, her eyes distant. Nayeli nodded, clutching her sister's hand tightly. Thomas felt a pang in his chest. He could not replace what they had lost, but he could give them a life filled with safety and care. "We may never return there," he said softly, "but we can make a new home here, one where you are safe and free to grow. I will not let anyone hurt you, and you will always have a place with me." The girls looked at him, their fear mingling with hope. Slowly they nodded. That moment marked a turning point. They began to see Thomas not just as a protector, but as a family member, a brother, someone they could trust completely. Challenges soon arose. One afternoon, a group of men passed through town, their eyes lingering on the twins with curiosity and ill intent. Some whispered cruel words about how the girls belonged to Thomas, implying he could use authority over them. Thomas's heart tightened, but he did not panic. Instead, he walked calmly toward the men standing tall beside the twins. "These girls are under my care," Thomas said firmly, his voice steady. "They are safe, and I will protect them. Anyone who tries to harm them will answer to me." The men hesitated, surprised by his calm confidence. Seeing that Thomas would not back down, they muttered among themselves and moved on. The twins clung to him for a moment, relief washing over their small faces. Thomas understood that protection was not just about strength. It was also about courage, conviction, and showing others that he would not allow harm. As the months passed, Thomas began teaching the girls practical skills. He taught them how to cook, tend a small garden, and care for the animals nearby. More importantly, he taught them how to read the signs of the land, the way the wind could warn of storms, how to track paths through the forest, and which plants could heal minor injuries. These lessons were more than survival skills. They were tools of independence. The twins thrived under Thomas's guidance, growing in confidence and spirit. In the evenings, Thomas often told them stories, not only about distant lands and heroic deeds, but about kindness, courage, and the importance of family. Ayana and Nayeli listened with wide eyes, sometimes laughing, sometimes quietly reflecting. These stories became a bridge between their past and present, reminding them that even in a harsh world, there were people who cared deeply for others. One day, Thomas noticed the twins arguing over something small, a ribbon Ayana wanted, which Nayeli had picked up first. Instead of scolding them, he knelt and said, "You both are important. You both have value. There is enough kindness in the world for both of you to share it." The girls paused, realizing he was teaching them more than sharing. He was teaching them respect, patience, and love. Slowly, they reached an understanding. Their bond as sisters strengthened even further. Winter arrived, bringing cold winds and snow that blanketed the town. Life became harder, but Thomas never allowed the girls to feel despair. He made sure their home stayed warm, that the fire burned brightly each night, and that meals were hearty and comforting. Ayana and Nayeli marveled at his dedication, often whispering to each other how lucky they were to have someone who cared so much. Thomas never sought praise. His joy came from seeing their smiles and knowing they were safe. One evening, Thomas heard distant shouting outside. He grabbed a lantern and hurried toward the noise, finding a group of travelers trapped in a snowdrift. Without hesitation, he helped them to safety, carrying the injured and guiding the others back to town. The twins watched from the window, their admiration for him growing. They understood that courage was not only in defending them, but also in helping others without expecting anything in return. Spring followed, and with it came new challenges. A neighboring town faced hardships, and rumors of trouble reached Thomas. Some villagers suggested sending the girls to safer places, away from potential danger. But Thomas refused. "We face life together," he said. "No one divides our family. I will keep them safe here with me where they belong." The twins began to explore more, playing with other children in the town while Thomas watched from a distance. He allowed them freedom while remaining vigilant, understanding that true protection meant giving them space to grow. He noticed how their laughter became louder, their curiosity boundless, and their hearts lighter. They were no longer the frightened captives who had arrived months ago. They were strong, spirited girls who trusted the world because they trusted him. As the year drew to a close, Thomas reflected on the journey they had shared. The twins had taught him patience, empathy, and the importance of choosing kindness even when the world expected otherwise. In return, he had given them safety, guidance, and love. A home in a place where they once felt lost and alone. One night, as they sat around the fire, Ayana leaned against Thomas and said, "You are our brother, Thomas. We are glad we have you." Nayeli nodded, her eyes shining in the firelight. Thomas felt a warmth that went beyond words. In that moment, he knew that their bond was unbreakable. He had protected them not because he was ordered to, but because it was right. They were his family, and he would always stand by them. The following days brought small celebrations in the town, marking the end of another year. Thomas watched the twins run and play, their laughter filling the air. He realized that the greatest reward he had ever received was not recognition, wealth, or status. It was the trust and love of these two young girls who had come into his life under difficult circumstances. The story of Thomas, Ayana, and Nayeli became known in the town, not as a tale of ownership or reward, but as a story of courage, empathy, and family. People spoke quietly about how the young man had defied expectations, treating the twins not as property but as cherished members of his life. Even the girls' past hardships could not diminish the new life they had found. and their bond with Thomas would remain strong forever. Through storms, whispers, and uncertainty, Thomas learned that protection was more than guarding against harm. It was teaching, guiding, and loving. The twins flourished under his care, and he flourished as their protector. Life was not perfect, and there were still challenges to face, but together, they faced the future with courage, hope, and an unbreakable bond. As they walked together toward the horizon one evening, the sun casting long shadows across the plains, Thomas held their hands firmly. He knew that no matter what obstacles came, they would face them as a family. And in that knowledge there was peace. The twins, once afraid and lost, had found safety, love, and belonging. And Thomas, who had received an unexpected reward, had discovered the deepest meaning of family, protection, and courage. Life went on, and with each passing day, Thomas, Ayana, and Nayeli wrote new chapters together. Their story was not just about survival, it was about trust, love, and the extraordinary strength of human compassion. Even in a world that could be harsh and unfair, their bond proved that kindness and courage could create a home, and that sometimes family is chosen not by blood, but by the heart.